My printer wasn't working this morning. That's why I was running a little bit late. So I've got my sermon here. I think we're gonna be okay. Okay, do that. Okay. Let's see. So welcome to this place which we make holy by our presence. Here you can bring your brokenness and your personal glow, your early morning aches and your energy, vulnerabilities and strengths, fears and hopes, for here you need not hide nor pretend, nor be anything other than who you are and who you are called to be. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, where the human is celebrated, where compassion is strength. Welcome to this place. Together, we make it a holy place. Please join me for the words of the chalice lighting, printed inside of your leaflet. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers, to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Now please stand if you're able for our opening hymn, number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Our reading today will come from a letter that was posted on the door of this church when I got here this morning. And there's kind of a game here, because this whole, and I'm not going to read this whole page, but this whole page does not contain any apostrophes. So you could kind of do a pin the grammar on the letter. This is John Mark's letter to the apostate church in Babylon. But because there's no apostrophe, it actually, the sentence says that John is marking a letter, not that the letter belongs to John Mark, whoever that might be. Okay. The watchmen in the last days will warn the church to repent and to turn to the Holy Covenant. Romans 11 says that if the Gentiles do the same thing as the 10 lost tribes, they too will be cut out of the tree. Today's church is rejecting the word of God to follow after men who preach smooth, ear-tickling doctrines, as Paul says so accurately in 2 Timothy 3 and 4. The book of Revelation quotes over 600 chapters in the scriptures, yet these end days wolves behind pulpits will tell you oftentimes that the Old Testament is 99% fulfilled. The church is apostate, apostate meaning having wandered from the whatever. And Paul said, because these people hate the truth, I will give them up to a strong delusion. The end days church has accomplished every evil act recorded in God's warnings, and they are going to suffer for their sin. The time is now to repent, as God's word is not written in vain. Deuteronomy 4:28. And there ye shall serve gods, and the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. But if from thence thou shalt seek the Lord thy God, thou shalt find him, if thou seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul. When thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee, even in the latter days, if thou turn to the Lord thy God, and shalt be obedient to his voice, for the Lord thy God is a merciful God, in parentheses. He will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, nor forget the covenant of thy fathers, which he sware unto them. Few bother to read the scriptures, and never mind to obey them. Also, few bother to read the rules of grammar or how to write a sentence, but that's not that important. The worship of man's hands is idiomatic and simply means that people create their own idolatry or works. The northern kingdom was severely punished for learning the ways of the heathen and were exiled out of their land, never to return. The vain traditions of Christmas and Easter and Sunday Sabbath are the same pagan rituals of witchcraft that the whole pagan world embraced long before Christ gave his life, so that we can follow the Holy Covenant, and the whole church is right back doing exactly what will bring forth the tribulation. All right, good. So this has been a reading from John Mark's letter to the apostate churches in Babylon. I assume that whoever posted this on our door was... As a matter of fact, I assume that they never even dreamed that this would be read inside of this building. So I'm happy to make their wildest fantasy come true. Although apparently their wildest fantasy is expressed right here. All right, good. So with that accomplished, Peter, would you like to lead us in honoring joys and sorrows?
As we do every Sunday, we reserve a little bit of time to share with the rest of the people that are here personal highs and personal troubles or lows that you may have. Because sharing them enhances some of those highs and in some strange way takes a little bit of the bitterness or the troublesome or the power of the lows. So I invite you to take a few minutes and consider any highs or lows that you'd like to share with the others here this morning. Let's take a moment of silence to do that. And now if someone has decided that they would like to share something, come up and do so, please.
My husband, John, he's okay, but he's in the hospital again with cellulitis. He's been there since Wednesday, so I'm probably going to leave right after service today. It looks like it's getting better. The cellulitis has been in his leg since Wednesday, and they said today the heat has gone down, so hopefully the infection is gone.
So last night, Bill and Teresa and I went to the planetarium at Buff State and saw the Eclipse show. So that's our theme for our pledge drive this year. And now we know everything there is to know about eclipses, if anybody wants to know. And but they're going to add some more shows. They've sold out, but they're going to add some more shows. And by the way, the Taylor Swift light show there is almost sold out also. So in case there are any Swifties in the audience, that's coming up too.
Who else would like to share something with us this morning? If not, I believe that our collection is next. Isn't it on the agenda? Okay.
It's not really, it's nothing in particular. It's just a joy to be alive and to be here and to be grateful and seeing all the crap that's going on in Palestine and Sudan and everywhere in the world. And we're here and we're safe and we have loved ones and we get to be together in this community and the beautiful snow. And I'm joyful that I get to homeschool my son and I get to spend my days with him. And it's just oh my God, thank you. Just joyful to be alive.
Thank you very much for that. And now Patty will play an offertory while we take up the collection or the offering.
An eclipse is a matter of perspective. When the moon is between your face and the sun, then from where you're standing, it's a solar eclipse. So an eclipse requires the alignment of three components: the sun, the moon, and your face. This can certainly be disturbing if your head is the center of the universe. I am not here to tell you that your head is not the center of the universe, even though I happen to know from personal experience that, in fact, my head is the center of the universe. Also, there is a distinct possibility that the universe only exists in the center of my brain. Kind of a chicken and the egg type thing, which is why my head is so ovular. Anyway, the eclipse. For most of human history, the sun and moon have revolved around the earth. Although this is a problematic statement because obviously for most of human history, the earth was flat. If you can envision a platter with a dome on top of it, or a vending machine toy capsule with a clear plastic top, that's how most humans have envisioned the world. Someone in ancient Greece did figure out that the shape of the moon changed because it was cyclically eclipsed by the shadow of the earth, and therefore the planet must be round. But then the early Christians torched all of the Greek libraries. The dying embers of these fires signaled the start of a dark age. The proposition of the heliocentric universe, a solar system in which planets revolve around the sun, was revived about 500 years ago. The sudden roundness of the planet had disastrous consequences for the natives of the Americas, who had been safely hidden on the underside of a flat world and were immediately attacked by Spain and England. And thus, we get to stand on this stolen piece of land and watch an eclipse. In the book of Ecclesiastes, we read, "The sun also rises and the sun goes down and hurries back to the place where it arose." This single sentence contains three inaccuracies. The sun does not rise, it does not set, and it never hurries anywhere. The sun simply explodes in place, and its enormous size creates a gravitational pull that causes spinning planets to swirl around it. These planets are always in a reckless hurry, but never seem to get closer to each other or reach any sort of destination, like the characters in Ernest Hemingway's novel, The Sun Also Rises. I don't want to spoil any surprises about that book or the universe, but they both contain some funny lines, some unfortunate old-timey racism, some heart-rending alienation, and some unbought stuffed animals. Anyway, the concept of the sun rising and setting is still with us, even though we all know better. My astronomical education began with a song from the musical Fiddler on the Roof. Sunrise, sunset, swiftly fly the years, one season following another, laden with happiness and tears. And like the sun, which is always stuck in place, I was once in a high school production, and being the son of a preacher man, I got cast as the rabbi's son. All of Tevye's daughters were running around, terrified that they would never get married. None of them so much as glanced at the rabbi's son. This was pretty much my high school experience. The lyrics saying that the seasons would be laden with happiness and tears turned out to be only half right. I keep getting sidetracked, or perhaps I should say that dark spheres of memory keep floating between me and this topic, in which case I should call this presentation Eclipse. So for a long time in human cultures, there was this idea that the land was flat like a platter, the sun, moon, and stars either circled around it or found some other way to get from the westward setting to the eastward rising. The Egyptians, for example, believed that the sun was swallowed nightly by a sky-spanning goddess, and then it rolled down her throat into her tummy so that she could give birth to it again in the morning on the other side of the sky. Before gravity was discovered, The sun and moon had to be pushed, pulled, dragged, chased, or otherwise convinced to move. The ancient Greeks said that the sun was pulled in a chariot steered by the god Helios. Ironically, the heliocentric universe was later named after the sun's former chauffeur. That's a crummy honor when you've just been laid off. It is from the Greeks we get the word eclipse, ekleipo, meaning disappearance, possibly related to the Greek word kleptomania, as if the moon every so often gets caught trying to put the sun in her pocket. There was a belief in ancient monarchic Greece that an eclipse was a sign that the gods were angry at the king, so they would hide the king, dress some poor stooge in his clothes, and then sacrifice him to keep the sun and moon happy. Then, when the coast was clear and the sun returned, the king would come back out into daylight. They knew the sun was pretty far away and wouldn't necessarily be able to tell one guy from another, hence the expression, "They're all Greek to me." Excuse me. I'm just kidding. It's a Shakespeare line. You know, you'd think I would have seen that coming, and I did, but you know, I write one of these things and I giggle about it, and then I have to read that line 10 or 15 times till it's not funny to me anymore. And then every so often, I'm up here and I see some line, I'm like, oh man. Anyway. The ancient Chinese have been keeping track of eclipses for 4,000 years. For a time, it was believed that a great sky dragon occasionally tried to swallow the sun, and people would try to frighten it off by banging drums and making loud noises, which included pinching their dogs to make them bark, just to help out. The Choctaw of native North America had a similar belief, except that it was a black sun-swallowing squirrel who had to be frightened away. And the Vikings believed that the sun and moon were siblings being chased across the sky by giant wolves. And when the wolves succeeded in swallowing them, it would signal the onset of Ragnarok, the end of the world. So they also made a lot of noise to frighten the wolves away. A solar eclipse is one of the most fascinating cosmic light shows, especially before Disney swallowed the Star Wars galaxy. And yet you don't get to watch it, so I guess making a big sonic spectacle makes sense since there's nothing to see. And if you look too long, you'll never get to see anything else again. Everybody's favorite sun-swallowing story, and by this I mean this story that you've never heard of, will be your favorite 2 minutes from now, is the Hindu legend of Rahu, a vain trickster and conjurer who hung out with the deities when the world was new. And by world, I mean an ocean of milk. Now, some of the gods were churning this milk to make nectar, which they would drink to attain immortality. And Rahu, wanting in on this, disguised himself in drag and attended the banquet as a pretty goddess. But his ruse was discovered and he was decapitated. His head was flung off to the skies. And still embittered about it, he goes around like a shadowy Pac-Man, gobbling at the sun. Having sipped the nectar, his head is immortal, but has no gullet. So each time he successfully swallows the sun, it goes down his throat and back out through his neck hole, and his 19-year chase begins again. In most ancient cultures, an eclipse was an ominous anomaly to be feared. But some had more positive associations with it. The West African Yoruba tribe believed that the sun and moon are a god and goddess who get together every so often and turn out the lights to produce new godlings for the world. Excuse me. The peoples of Benin and Togo say that long ago the ancestral mothers got so sick of people bickering that they blackened the sun, and ever since then the eclipse has been a sign that it's time to resolve disagreements and bury old grudges, or else the mother spirits may do it again for good. Some cultures have eclipse superstitions. For example, that it's bad luck to conceive a baby while the sun is darkened. Some observant Hindus say that you should shower in your clothing after an eclipse, which seems a little random, but harmless. Then there are certain Native American tribes who believe that a solar eclipse signals the sun running out of fire, and they will attempt to reignite it by shooting flaming arrows into the sky. So perhaps the one Indian tradition of wet clothes is there to counteract the American Indian tradition of haphazard flame throwing. If you are going to fire a flaming arrow into the sky, please remember that the Earth is large and has a powerful gravitational pull, and your ascending arrow is likely to get pulled back toward the center of the Earth. So please make sure that there are no dry forests or people in its path, even if they are wearing wet clothes. Most living cultures have adapted their eclipse mythologies to reflect the cyclical, predictable nature of the solar eclipse. And these days, eclipses are valuable for studying ancient cultures, since it enables scholars to align certain ancient writings with events that can be confidently dated. But of course, there is still one religion using eclipses to make comical prophecies. The only religion I know of that still maintains that the Earth is flat and the center of the universe. One Christian website called this year's eclipse God's urgent warning to America, with the apostrophe missing from God's, making it a polytheistic sentence. This lack of apostrophe turns an urgent warning into a heresy. And the site predicts that this eclipse is a sign of the end times, Gog and Magog, and Daniel's prophecy, which might have been a prophecy belonging to Daniel, but another missing apostrophe turns it into Daniel's, a whiskey manufacturer, a Daniel's prophecy. And indeed, Jack Daniels may have been involved. We certainly know that the Chicago Manual of Style was not. But rather than cover our heads with sackcloth and ashes, we can take a quick look around online and enjoy some eclipse-related prognostications of the past. The 2017 eclipse was accompanied by a biblical flood of Christian prophecies, most of which warned of some impending disaster, including hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, just about everything except a coronavirus. But making eclipse prophecies is nonetheless a good way to summon internet pilgrims to visit a sacred website, bless the sponsors, and reap a joyful harvest of donations. One internet prophet pointed out that the paths of the 2017 and 2024 eclipses cross each other to put a letter X over the United States. The site then explains that this expresses God's displeasure about Christian Christmas being replaced with Xmas. Now, this does contain a... I know, it's kind of like John Mark's thing. Now, this does contain a grain of scientific truth, since the manufacture and shipping of plastic Christmas toys definitely contributes to the blackening of the skies, and someday our commercialized holiday cheer will bring about the wailing and gnashing of teeth. The good thing about doom prophecies is that, if you wait long enough, they do come true. We today live in a clockwork universe where the lights in the sky are cold, distant, and uncaring, sociopathically spiraling in some zillion-year countdown to empty oblivion. Thinking about other cultures' belief in emotional celestial bodies can make us laugh. Hearing about our belief in gravitational regularity would make them cry. They would pity us more than we can pity them. The Earth is not the center of a sentient and sentimental universe. But that doesn't mean that it isn't special. Earth's sun is 400 times the size of the moon, and also 400 times farther away, which is why they appear to be about the same size from our perspective. This means that we on Earth are uniquely suited to see total eclipses of the sun. Earth is the only solid planet with this unique confluence. The moons of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune can produce eclipses too, but these planets are gas balls, so there's no place to set down a lawn chair. We humans are, so far as we know, the only semi-intelligent species in the solar system who get to watch and wonder at a solar eclipse. And our intelligence allows us to plan in advance to set up our lawn chairs, get some eclipse glasses, or make that cardboard box thing, or whatever. And when the moon darkens the sun, we're the only species on Earth who know that it will pass and life will go on, so we can enjoy the show. On April 8th, we can go out and watch a total eclipse of the sun. And for a few glorious minutes there, you really can bask in the sight of the cosmos revolving around your head. Most of us here have not been the center of the universe since we were toddlers. So it'll be interesting to see what it feels like for an adult. For a moment there, your brain will be the center of the universe. Thank you. All right. Please stand if you're able for our next hymn, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will
Guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us, we'll lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Never cannot sing like the angels if you cannot speak before thousands. You can give from greed to giving. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Do we have any announcements today? Please.
Yes, I have one that sort of, John, you kind of like got me started with this one. You mentioned the Greeks, that they believed the earth was round. There was another way that they proved to themselves. They had evidence that the earth was round. So I can borrow this candlestick here. Now imagine above your head, the sun's like straight above, the sun's up here, and the light's coming down pretty much evenly. If the earth was flat, and I had this candle at about the same height from this table, if the table was over here, you would not see much of a shadow on either one of these. It's noon. Now, if the earth is curved, now imagine this floor here curving. Now, if you curve the earth, this candle's now at an angle. Hopefully I won't spill the stuff on me. Now, because this is at an angle, the sun's shadow is longer at this candle than it is on the candle over here. Over there it's noon, and here it might be about 12:30. So it's a little bit of more of a shadow. It's still noon or afternoon here. That was how they kind of faked. Now, they kept meticulous records too. Back in those days, they couldn't instantaneously talk to each other like we do today. So what they did is they kept really good records, and they started comparing the records, and they were saying, how can this be? And eventually they came to a conclusion, well, the earth must be round. And that concludes my announcement.
And just a reminder that on the 8th, we're handing out Eclipse glasses, and they're plastic wrapped, and they're approved by the gods in heaven. They're ISO certified, whatever, Teresa. Yeah. From the NASA website, so we got good ones, and we have a lot of them.
Approved by the church in Babylon.
Adult education service after an adult education session after coffee hour. And what we're going to be looking at is we're going to take a look at the Ten Commandments, and not just as a kind of a random set of devotional laws, but what did this have to do with protecting this little liberated community from creating a situation of injustice like the one that they had escaped in ancient Egypt. So, and yes, there will be a test. I want to know how many commandments can we name. So don't look it up. But anyway, so we will do that in 25, 30 minutes. No, okay. So yeah, there is also a special test for Peter. How many of the Ten Commandments can you break in 25 minutes? Everybody else, look out. Okay, because you heard it here. He's got a special dispensation. All right, now I got to get serious for a minute. Okay. Together we have sanctified this space. If you have found strength and comfort here, share some out there. Remember that you are blessed and you are a blessing, and you are not alone. Please join me for the words of extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
So last week we had an educational video. Today we're having a video that's more in line with John's sermon, and we hope you enjoy it.